And with that, I'll ask Ian maybe to jump in a little bit to what's been going on at Toronto a little bit, and to give you an example of the reality of doing what we've just been talking about.
Absolutely. Thanks, Simon. I think what you've just heard is a very brief summary of the reality that a lot of law enforcement agencies face, ours included. And in the presentation, we have, I think, a really concise way of explaining where we were compared to where we need to be. And that being where we had historically focused on a narrow version of the intelligence cycle, which was the slide where we saw one system really, and having to manually go into that system, extract insights piece by piece, put them together, assess them, package them, and then move on to another system. And the number of times that you would have to do that really exponentially added time, effort, and the likelihood of missing something as well. And when we compare that to where we are today with so many different systems, the nuances within those systems and the content that you need to be able to search, it's extremely important to be able to have something like what we've implemented, call it global search, that touches on a number of operational sources of data, historical and current, and it connects those inherently for whomever the operational user is. And so when we do that, there's a number of substantial benefits. And part of that maturity model for us has been preventing, or at least limiting, the number of times that our organization has to make copies of data. And Simon touched on it a little bit with the ETL process and making a copy of data so you can move it to another place, whether that's a warehouse or a data mart, and then build reporting off that. Or even just an analyst who extracts using Excel and a database connection, stores on their local computer or a local shared drive a copy of that data. Maybe they're putting it onto USB keys, transferring it across computers or sharing it with other people, potentially even in ways that you don't want them to be whatsoever. And the risk and work effort required in that is so substantial that when we look at where we are going, and in some cases where we are at Toronto Police Service today, is making available one place to search for information. And so that place, as I mentioned, we refer to as global search, which touches on repositories of information, so current and historical systems, file shares, which are both investigative and administrative. And so we recognize, of course, that a lot of this use case is focused on solving crime problems and looking at crime reporting to try to understand who was the likely perpetrator of this crime. However, we realize that there's an exponential value that can come from having administrative members of the organization who can just simply search across file shares that they already have access to, but would otherwise have to go to 6 different places to try to get the information I need for this month's meeting on that project or that initiative. Or even, again, if we look towards members of our teams, whether from an HR or a wellness perspective, being able to bring up very quickly the reviews that we've done for those people, some of the accommodations or the awards that they've received. And maybe that's about our own awards. And to have access to that in one simple search engine makes so much efficiency, reduces the copying of data, the time spent searching, and the likelihood that you're missing really important things. And that simply touches on what can you do by searching. There's obviously a lot of value in being able to connect across those systems over time, because as many organizations have established records management systems, either presently or in historical versions, you can only really search for things based on predefined boxes. So you can search for a surname or a given name or a date of birth, maybe all of those things, but they have to be in predefined boxes. You can only search in those particular areas. And what you're not able to do is search across records that might have multiple connections across systems or even within your system. So to be able to search for names of people and keywords like descriptions. And so what we've established to this point is an environment that our members can go into largely for operational insights to present to them those connections that otherwise very likely they wouldn't have even seen, or it would have taken so much manual effort and deliberate note-taking, making new data to be able to try to generate the insight to understand what the connections across those data sources are. And so as we move forward, I think we have a lot of opportunity to apply some of the capabilities of this platform technology and really augment those operational insights for members of the organization, but also some of the insights that the public expects these days. And in some cases, those are going to be search functionality. In some cases, there's an open data or open analytics need. And we have opportunities for both of those as we progress forward. Some of the ability of us moving from data to insight that is where we need to be. And so we're touching on that today, but there's a substantial opportunity to put operational insights in the hands of the members of our organization, where you can bring to them those operational analytics components that meet the task that they're working on at this moment. So whether that's a frontline police officer who happens to be dispatched to a call about a domestic assault, and on their way to that domestic assault, your intelligent search solution could understand that you're on this call because it's recognizing that the CAD event that you've just been assigned to is of this nature, taking place at this address, and possibly involving these people. Your intelligent search solution should be able to recommend for you, or at least advise, a category of things that have occurred previously to do with these common elements, these people, this location, or domestics in generally. Maybe it's a procedure awareness component. So on your way to that event, here's a reminder about some of the procedures you should consider when going to a domestic. Do you have backup? Do you have a partner? Do you have a site into this location and a site out of this location? So very operational things. If you're going to potentially a less concerning type of call, so the officer safety risk appears lower on the way to that call. So it's a mischief call or a property damage call. And you're on your way there. However, the location where that call is generated from happens to be a gang territory, or happens to have a number of people who have warrants for their arrest, or has people who are known to want to commit suicide by cop. There's a number of capabilities that you can generate those operational insights in real time based on data that already exists in an insightful manner. And so those are the types of things that we're working towards now to enable our members. Now, of course, you can't have 100 messages blasting to an officer on their way to a call, but there's ways that you can subtly introduce those, and they can acknowledge and consume or disregard in real time in a way that's not impacting their ability to respond accordingly to that event. And so those are some of the approaches that we're looking at as we continue forward. And I'll pass back to Simon to discuss a little bit more about solutioning around some of these needs.
Thanks very much, Ian. And just picking up on that slide a second as well, all the things that you're focusing on right in today are very much on that sort of in that diagram right now. Less to do with, hey, let's move and manage the data, because it's already in a framework that you can do something with. So it's really freeing you up to go and address the real true needs of your members and what it's like to give them that insight, right? I mean, I think that's the key point that's accelerated your ability to go and do things today in ways that you would have been more challenging previously, right?
Absolutely.